Good morning. Good morning. Or should I say, howdy, y'all. I was born in Chicago. That's not part of my vernacular. But it's growing on me. It's growing on me a little bit. Well, welcome to our second day. Yesterday was amazing. Yes. Give yourselves a round of applause. It was amazing. You all heard from folks from all over this country about early childhood efforts from as far away as China and as close as Southern Methodist University in Dallas. Go Mustangs. And as lifelong learners, you gleaned information about data, coaching, technical assistance, partnerships, content libraries, and parallel process. You shared insights, asked questions, and you interacted. And that was all before we got to the happy hour with the lawn games. I want to thank you all for your participation, for sharing on the Whova app and becoming a part of our class community and being such superb members of our face-to-face community here these 2 days. And we still have another whole day. We have a birthday in the house today. Happy birthday to Molly. I know I talked about Rebecca Friedman rapping yesterday, but Molly, I am not going to sing happy birthday to you. That would clear the room. But I am super pumped about our sessions today and also having class co-author and Teachstone co-founder Bob Pianta here to introduce our lunch keynote. And I want to encourage you all to participate just as much as you did yesterday and to keep those interactions rolling. Y'all. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the stage Rebecca Berlin. She is Teachstone's Chief Strategy Officer. And if you know Teachstone, you know Rebecca. She's on the front line of affecting the class tool's impact. And when she's not leading our team from our home office in Charlottesville, Virginia, she is traveling the globe, spreading the word about the importance of quality teacher-student interactions. Rebecca?
I'm going to attempt to balance coffee and speak this morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Interact for our second day. I am so excited for everyone to be here. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to spend time with all of you in many of our sessions. I spent time learning about crosswalks, learning about how Teachstone is working with all of the communities to better align class to curriculum, to state standards, and to other assessment tools to make things easier for you. I also spent time in the international session. I find it exciting that class has been validated in China and in Ecuador, and I think it really pushes forward how we are understanding how attachment really is a universal concept, and as a result, class can be a universal concept. And then my good friend Deborah Paciano, who speaks about instructional leadership from her heart. And I spent some time with some people from Dallas and Dominique, and we were talking about how instructional leadership really matters and how we have not spent enough time as an industry or as an education community really thinking about that. And then lastly, we spent time thinking about curriculum alignment. How do we make these things easier for teachers? So when they're doing a lesson plan about a strategy around math, they're also integrating their class concepts instead of doing my class time, right? And then doing my curriculum time. So I look forward to spending time with you today, learning and growing about the class. So to start today, I wanted to just spend a few minutes first thanking our wonderful staff. So first of all, thank you to the Teachstone staff. We have about 35 people here. They're all the people with the orange tags. So thank you. They have been helping us as speakers, as conversation sparkers, as quick technology experts when we've had AV problems. I also wanted to thank our Teachstone staff at home. So we have about 95 Teachstone staff in total now. And we have some staff left at home as well as in the field. So thank you to all of our staff. We're not video streaming this, so I'm sending them my good thoughts right now. I want to also have a huge thank you to Megan. So everyone turn around right now. So Megan is our event lead and has been literally planning Interact since the time Interact 2016 ended in Chicago. So thank you for your leadership and your guidance and your support and your many days in the last few weeks of lack of sleep. I do have something to say. In my notebook on the table over there, I do already have Interact 2018 plans. So once you get a little bit of sleep, we can start thinking about next year. I wanted to say thank you to all of our speakers. This was the first year we did a proposal process, and we had 50 proposals for our 30 speaking slots. The stories you are sharing are truly inspiring, and they share how the power of class has grown exponentially from the work of the founders, Bob Pianta and Bridget Hamry, across the country and really now across the world. And last, I wanted to thank all of you. There are 200 of you here today from 35 states in the US. From as far away, I'm looking for my friends from Hawaii, Kim, and my friends from Alaska. Hello. So thank you. We have the majority of our participants are from around 35 states, but we have significant participation this year from Texas, from Louisiana, from California, and from Florida. So welcome to everyone. The conference is time for all of us to come together and to share the work that each of us is doing to improve teacher-child interactions across the country. At times, it may feel like the work we are doing is just a drop in the bucket, that we're only working with one teacher or one program or one community. But together, we really are doing much more. So let's say, for the sake of examples, that the 200 people here today are each working with 100 teachers, either directly or indirectly. So for some, it may be a few less. And for my friends in California who are working at such a large scale, they're working with many more than 100 teachers. But so if the 200 people here today, we're working with those 100 teachers, right away we're already impacting 20,000 teachers. So let's say that after we leave today, that each of us go and take the class model out to 2 of our closest friends who are working in aligning communities. Each of them work with 100 teachers. Together, we'll be working with 60,000 teachers to dramatically improve the quality of early childhood education. And with our pre-K ratios the way they are today, that means we're directly impacting 600,000 teachers. It's no longer a drop in the bucket, is it? Instead, it seems like the immense power to transform the field and improve the outcomes for children nationwide. So as you sit in your sessions today and reflect on what you are hearing and how you may implement it within your community, think about how you can take that small drop and transform it into meaningful, powerful change. And as you're holding that change in your thought right now, I wanted to take a few minutes with you this morning and reflect on the power of teachers in the work that we do. So as I sat down to begin thinking about my remarks, I did what any good researcher, any good practitioner, and any good policymaker does. I went to the latest research, the latest news articles, and the latest opinion pieces. A few years ago, I would have only found 1 or 2 articles on early childhood education. But believe it or not, when I looked for the past 3 weeks, there were over 20 articles and opinion pieces on early childhood education. So I wanted to just start today by sharing a few of those pieces with you. The first article came from Tennessee. This is one of the things I find very interesting, right? So when we think about early childhood education, particularly in the political climate right now, we want to make sure we continue moving this forward, and we're wondering what will happen. And one of the things that really motivates me right now is the fact that local districts like Dallas have taken this up, communities like the city of San Antonio have taken this up, business leaders like the organizations within Ready Nation have taken this up. But the most interesting one to me is the coalition of brigadier generals. So this is a piece by a general who actually is retired and resides in Tennessee. And right now, Tennessee is really working on improving their early childhood funding level. And so he did an opinion piece stating that over 50% of the population of Tennessee right now who is eligible to serve in the military by age technically is no longer eligible because of unable to pass the military readiness test, previous felonies, or obesity. And one of the things he's saying in this opinion piece is that early childhood education can prevent those things and can actually make our country more military ready. Hey, Mike, thanks. So we often think about social emotional effects and about academic effects, but we are also starting to see the health effects of early childhood education. And this is a piece by Business Insider about the New York City program, right? We've all heard about how New York City went from very small to universal pre-K in just 2 years. One of the early effects that they are finding from the New York City study is that they are actually improving health outcomes because with more eyes on kids, right, this makes sense, more teacher eyes on kids, they are able to earlier identify kids who are having vision and hearing problems. So not just social emotional effects, but also health effects. As a working mom who had to put her child in daycare, childcare at 6 weeks of age, this is a study that lightens my heart. A study out of the New York Times that says that childcare enriches mother and especially the sons they raise. I have a 13-year-old son, and every day I wonder, did I do the right thing? And I know I did. But when research articles like this come out saying that, particularly for women in poverty, that childcare, high-quality childcare really does make a difference, it makes us all feel better. It helps us as we work with those teachers and those families. So for those of you in Texas, there was an article that was just published. I know right now your legislature is in session, pointing, not sure which way the Capitol is for me, I'll just say it's this way, looking at additional funding in the state of Texas for Rising Stars. And then teacher prep. As a former teacher prep professor, one of the things we really are focusing on and thinking about as Teachstone is how can we start working with universities and community colleges. And one of the things this article says is we really are not doing a good job in our teacher prep programs, particularly teaching future teachers about social emotional learning. And that's one of the things we all know. All of you are in the field, and you do spend time really working with those teachers. So how can we partner with community colleges and universities better to really make sure we make that connection and better prepare those teachers? And then a piece out of New America. If you haven't read this, it is very heartening. It is by Abby Lieberman, and it's about if we care about early learning, we cannot ignore teacher well-being. And it's one of the things one of the sessions was talking with the Momentous Institute was talking about yesterday. We need to provide social emotional support, mental health consultations for children, but we also should be doing a better job providing that support for teachers. And then lastly, there was a consensus written by the Brookings Institute that was published a week ago Monday by leading researchers, including a researcher out of the University of Virginia that talks about the current state of scientific knowledge. I won't read the entire quote, but I'm going to start it out for you. But it really brings us back to interactions, right? It said that developmental science tells us that a key ingredient is the instructional, social, and emotional serve and return interactions that occur daily between teachers and children. Right? That is the central component of what really matters. So what did all of these research and articles and opinion pieces tell me? It told me what all of you know, that it's the teachers that matter most in improving the quality of education, and not just early childhood education, K-12 education. But what we know is we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job supporting these teachers. They have a very difficult time in the work that they do. And we need to think about how we can better support them as they prepare to enter the field, while they are growing in their profession, and in the day-to-day work that they do every day. So at Teachstone, we know that teachers are a key component. They're really the magic ingredient of impacting children. But we also know that it's essential to provide teachers with ongoing support in the difficult work that they do. We know that active engagement of children is important to improving outcomes. But as a field, we often forget that active engagement is also important for teachers. As a result, at Teachstone, we are constantly thinking about how to better engage teachers in our face-to-face, in our hybrid, and in our online programs. In 2016, as we launched My Teachstone offering, we were continuously searching for ways to better support teachers as they engaged in professional development. We did this by improving the user interface, by allowing simpler communication between teachers and coaches, and by developing learning pathways for teachers. However, we knew that these structural improvements would only move the needle of improvement part of the way. What truly moves the needle for teachers is providing them professional development content that truly inspires, that truly motivates, and that stimulates active learning. That is why in 2016, when we began looking for a partner with experience with active engagement of learners, we immediately focused on Sesame Workshop, an organization who has been doing this work for almost 50 years. Together, we have co-developed 21 mini courses focused on social emotional, language and literacy, and mathematics. These courses exist in My Teachstone and incorporate both Sesame and Teachstone video and are tied together with action planning activities that allow teachers to actively engage and try out strategies in classrooms. I am honored to share the stage today with Steve Youngwood, the Chief Operating Officer of Sesame Workshop. In his role, Steve oversees the media and education unit of Sesame Workshop. We've worked with Steve as well as members of his staff, Alicia and Akimi, who are also with us today, to create this partnership to better meet the professional development needs of teachers. Steve will now share a few words about how Sesame is continually growing and developing to better impact teachers in their efforts to impact children. Welcome to Interact, Steve.
Hello. I've been inspired and I brought the coffee up with me. Thank you to all. Thank you to Rebecca. You know, it is an honor to be here at Teachstone Interact in front of all of you. My only regret is I could only come in last night because I had a get ready for high school day with my oldest son, which is much scarier than early childhood education. But I did hear you had a great day. I heard you heard a lot of great research, a lot of great sort of case studies, and something I didn't know is hearing how Teachstone is like slowly by slowly, you know, kind of made its way to 30 different countries and is really becoming a great global organization. So I'm going to start by, you know, telling you a little bit about the workshop and, you know, Sesame Street, which should make it pretty clear why this is such a sort of a natural next step for us. You know, Sesame Street itself and the workshop started almost 50 years ago. And the goal was simple at the time, which was using the power of media to educate kids. And that meant and still means using the latest technology of the time. In 1969, it was about TV was the latest technology and home was the place to meet them because 70% of kids did not actually go to school at early ages. You know, and that's evolved into meaning many different things as we go to different platforms and different places to meet our audience. And we're here now because one of those next places is schools, and one of those next audiences is teachers. You know, we're dedicated to educating through media, and we're dedicated to early childhood education because, as everyone here knows, that's where you make the biggest difference. Now, we always say there's one thing you want to know about us, is that's where we focus. We reach over 187 million kids now. We're in 150 countries. We've had 30 different local productions around the world over a time, and we have about 10 or 11 of them right now. And we're research driven. There have been over 1,000 studies on Sesame Street's impact. And you know, one of the most noteworthy ones was highlighted recently in the Washington Post, showing that children who watch Sesame Street as preschoolers have high school GPAs that are almost 16% higher than those who don't. And so like Teachstone, we are research driven. It informs everything we do. We don't create content on a hunch, and we don't sort of rest on our laurels based upon perception. We're both about formative and summative research, and it's allows us to produce content that has a proven and lasting impact. Now, some people think, maybe not in this room, that education can be dry, but we like to say not ours, because you know, the workshop was founded knowing that we needed the secret sauce, and that sauce at the time came from Jim Henson and the Sesame Street Muppets, and it's amazing that almost 50 years later they are who they are. You know, everyone has a favorite Muppet, everyone has a favorite moment in Sesame Street that has sort of emblazoned into their mind, you know, from when they were little, or perhaps them being a parent. You know, the Muppets bring an unbelievable amount of joy to kids, and grown-ups too. You know, they're that instant connection, and they give you an engaged audience that is ready to learn. Because I think, as we all know, if you can't reach them, you can't teach them. And that those furry ambassadors and fun ambassadors help us reach and teach kids around the world in so many different ways. It allows us to do local language co-productions, to also our sort of more philanthropically funded social impact initiatives. You know, like we have a Muppet in India and in Bangladesh, Raya, who teaches kids and families life-saving lessons about hand washing and clean water, in addition to some of the basics of literacy. And a lot of people don't realize about us, because we've been fortunate enough to have a great deal of commercial success, is that we're actually a nonprofit. And what that means is, beyond a financial structure, it means that we really are focused, that everything we do is done to serve our mission, which is about helping kids growing smarter, stronger, and kinder. Now, everything we do is also made of the same ingredients, which is that combination of research-driven content and that special sauce of engagement and fun. You know, our most recent initiative, which you may have seen rolled out end of March, early April, is emblematic of it. It's See Amazing in All Children. It's an autism initiative which aims to educate people and destigmatize autism in an initiative that is only something that the workshop can do. We launched it about 1.5 years ago, and it started out as just online, but it kind of evolved, and it was a historic coalition, which, if you know the autism community, is not easy, bringing together the different interests. And it was backed by years of research and development. The centerpiece sort of quickly became Julia, a delightful 6-year-old girl. You know, when we first launched, she existed only two-dimensionally as an animated figure, but that all changed as we rolled out in March, is that she became a real, live, 3D living Muppet. She made her debut on Sesame Street a couple weeks ago, and before that, we unveiled her on 60 Minutes. You know, and over 47 seasons of Sesame Street, we've established a deep understanding of early childhood development. We've shown a commitment to the kind of quality interactions that reinforce and deepen learning. You know, historically, we've focused on interactions between children and parents or caregivers, but what we're excited about Teachstone is the next evolution. We're working with the other critical adults in kids' lives, the teachers, who spend so much time with them and have such an important impact. As content makers, we use partnerships to connect to an audience. In this case, Teachstone is the way we're reaching teachers, and through them to the audience we are actually laser focused on, which is kids. You know, we've become experts in engaging kids, and so now we know we can help teachers strengthen that engagement as well. But we're careful who we're partner with. You know, Teachstone is an industry leader in professional development, and we're thrilled to team up with them because they share our commitment to research, impact, and unlocking the potential of great teaching. So how does that work exactly? It's an exclusive series of content-rich professional development courses that we've embedded into my Teachstone. You Right now we're focusing on social and emotional development, math, and language and literacy. We're giving teachers research-driven and proven everyday strategies for improving effectiveness across the board. We are incredibly convinced that the Sesame Teachstone partnership is going to create the kind of quality teacher-student interactions that are really going to move the needle for kids.
Hey, Stevie, baby! Hey, Stevie! Stevie, how you doing? How you doing? Hey, everybody. Seriously, how's he doing, huh? Is he doing all right? Is he doing all right? Yeah. Well, not to worry. I, Grover, am here to help. I am here to help you, Stevie.
You're here to help me?
Yeah. Well, this is the Teachstone Summit, is it not? Well, I am here to help you teach these stones, of course.
Grover, I'm not sure you're really understanding.
Oh, no, it is really quite simple. In fact, as I like to say, it is sedimentary, my dear Watson. Here, let me show you. Steve, meet my friend, Steve. What a coincidence, you two have the same name! I mean, I always thought you had a lot in common, but I never even thought about your names.
Really?
Oh, that is so funny.
That's the best you got, Grover?
Anyway, Steve here is one of my best pupils. Yes, he is very talented. Just don't ask him to sing. He's a little stone deaf. Yeah. Would you like to see some of the tricks I have taught him?
You've read my
Yes,
mind.
you would.
Yes, please,
you would.
Grover.
Okay, here we go. We're going to start off with a really impressive one. Okay, you ready, Stevie? Okay, here we go. Sit. Pretty good, right? Okay. Oh, did you hear that? They like you, Stevie. Let's give them another one, shall we? Okay. Let's do it. Okay, just like we rehearsed. All right. Stay. Ta-da! Thank you. Yes. Oh, I tell you, education is so important. After all, today's stones are tomorrow's boulders. This is why no stone should be left unturned on to higher learning. Oh, now watch this. I've even taught him how to roll over. Okay, Stevie, you ready? Okay.
Grover. I
Yes?
think you're misunderstanding something. I'm going to tell you a little secret.
Yeah?
Teachstone has nothing to do with teaching stones. Yep.
Oh, come on.
No,
You're pulling
no.
my leg here.
No, it's for teachers to learn and grow and become more effective with kids.
Really?
Yeah.
You're telling me the teachers are the ones learning? I don't know. That sounds kind of upside down to me, but all right. I mean, I think it sounds like a worthwhile cause. And you know what? I love teachers. I happen to be one, so sure, whatever you say.
I have another secret for you, Grover.
What is that?
Stones can't turn over.
You know, I suppose you are right. It's kind of ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, they either know how or they don't, right, Steve? Come on, Steve, let's go. Bye, everybody! Bye!
Thank you, Grover. So with that, I am now happy to move on to the fireside chat and invite Rebecca back up here so we can tell you a little bit more about our wonderful partnership together. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and of course, again, thank you to Grover. I guess the very first question has to be, how did the name Teachstone come about?
So Teachstone is derived from the word touchstone, right? Which I'm looking at my Webster dictionary right here, meaning an excellent quality or example used to test genuineness, right? And so a touchstone is something that people continually come back to. So from that, Teachstone was derived. But I have to say, I really prefer Grover's side of the story. So again, thank you to Steve and for Grover. Was everyone as surprised? Yep. It was wonderful.
I was not surprised.
Can you talk a little bit more about the power of the partnership between Sesame Workshop and Teachstone?
Yeah. Well, kind of alluded to, a bit in there. I mean, for us, it's, sort of a match made in heaven. We everyone knows who they are and what we are as educators and content makers. What we always need to do from our early days partnering with PBS is we need to partner with people that connect us directly with the audience. And that's what Teachstone does. They have a direct relationship with schools and through that with teachers. And what takes it actually one step further is, given that we are so research and impact driven, is by integrating into something like My Teachstone, is not only does it reach them, but you can start measuring sort of the results and the impact, and the measurement's kind of built in. So it really is fantastic.
And one of the things that I would say, and I alluded to in my remarks, is I'm out working with teachers and state leaders and coaches. One of the things we hear over and over again is, how do we help our teachers to integrate what they are doing, right? The number one thing I hear is, I'm going to do my classwork, and then I'm going to do my curriculum work, and then I'm going to do my professional development work, right? And so as we look to expand our reach, we know we can't do everything, right? And one of our board members taught me this idea of either do it yourself or partner with someone. And so we looked to other content providers who could really partner with us, and then who could truly integrate it together, right? So instead of doing your math professional development or your language and literacy professional development, what we wanted to do is bring those two things together. So the modules really bring those two things together and integrate the class content with the math content and with the language and literacy content. I mean, that's one of the things we're looking across. So how, as a field, do we work together with all the associations, with all of the curriculum providers, to really figure out how to streamline work to teachers, right? So when they have those 15 minutes for professional development, we want that professional development to be integrated with everything they're working on. So they don't have to say, okay, which one am I going to pick first to do?
Thank you, Rebecca. You touched on it this morning, Steve, and Rebecca, you did as well, research. Can you talk a little bit more about the role research plays at Sesame Workshop?
Yeah, so it's in our DNA. It came from the beginning, and I think we invented the model of you putting three people at the table in order to make content, which was always researchers, educators, and creators. And it's that interaction between the three that leads to creating content that makes a difference. In our general, nothing is linear, it's always iterative, but we're constantly doing research and talking to researchers to identify the issues that matter. And then we kind of triangulate with the issues that matter where we think we can make a difference. But then very importantly, when we go into content creation, we're researching as we make it to make sure, particularly very important when you do it with kids too, because just because an adult understands something doesn't mean that a 4 or 5-year-old will. So we do research there, but just as important is actually then doing research afterwards to see if it actually had the intended impact. And that's always to prove to success, but that's also to learn so you can then go do better sort of the next time. And it's that constant sort of iterative circle that is emboldened into every process that we have.
And so those of you who have heard me speak before know I use my hands, right? And one of my favorite things to do is to talk about this idea between kind of research and best practice in the real world. And so that's where I really see Teachstone. We take the research that has been put out by leading universities, and then we work with the field and figure out where is that kind of central point of impact, right? At scale, we know we can't do everything that the research projects do, but we know that many of those central components are important, and we really live by fidelity. particularly in coaching, right? We've been talking a lot about coaching. And one of the reasons we know many coaching programs fail is because I'm looking right at Sarintha, right, who spoke about this yesterday. They fail because they don't take the idea of fidelity and figure out, okay, what of that research-based program really mattered? Was it the video? Was it the prompts? Was it the time between coaching sessions? And so we really work with the field to integrate that research. The other thing we are doing is working with the leading research organizations who are partnering with the people that we're working with, right? So FPG, partnering with Georgia DeKalb on the study around MMCI and MTP that was talked about last year at Interact. This year, you've probably been to the session from SMU. We're partnering with Dallas ISD, and Derek will talk some more about their work today. And then we continue to look and to see how we can impact research. And so one of the things I wanted to share is that we were just awarded a grant by Mathematica, one of the leading research organizations. And we are going to be implementing the My Teaching Partner model with 100 4th and 5th grade novice teachers beginning in September. So it's a randomized research project. In year 1, there'll be 100 MTP teachers, and in year 2, there'll be 200. And so as we expand the work of class into the upper elementary grades and really think about what that impact can be, and particularly in novice teachers, we've heard anecdotally the work it has done, but IES has this research line around what can we do better to prepare teachers in induction programs and support them in their first 4 years of their career. So you'll be hearing more about this project in the coming months and years.
Wonderful. You both touched on the partnership, and I was wondering if you could explain to the folks here, how many people have My Teachstone? So a few. For those who haven't been able to see the content within My Teachstone, can you tell me a little bit more about the tool?
Of course. Oh wait, we're going to hear this video. Actually, could you just advance 2 slides, Megan, to the Sesame content? Perfect. Go back 1. So let me, for those of you who aren't familiar with My Teachstone, just give you a little bit of an overview. So what we did about 18 months ago is release My Teachstone. And what it is, it's an online platform for professional development. And it includes right now content for infant teachers all the way through K-3 teachers. And actually with the Mathematica work, we'll be adding UE, which is a little bit of UE, which is 4th through 6. And when we think about My Teachstone, I think about 4 people or roles that interact with it. So there's content for teachers, there's content for observers, there's content for coaches, and there's content for administrators. And the idea is that it's a streamlined system. So if I was an observer, I could go in, log my observation data. An administrator could see that data. A coach could also see that data and then assign professional development. So there's a wealth of professional development from PDFs to videos, to longer videos, to courses. And then teachers can then use that content. And then so the Sesame content, what we did is we took a Sesame video and we took a Teachstone video and we linked it together. So for example here, so the Sesame video would be used in the Research Spark. So giving a teacher a background about the content, so about feelings. And then we'd link it to a video library, an exemplar for one of the indicators or behavioral markers. And that is in a See It in Action. And then Megan, just advance 1 slide. And then we know it's important not for teachers they need to know it, they need to see it, and then for it to be truly impactful, they need to do it. So in each of these courses, they then have a try it out section. So they take the learnings that they did. So example, how would I work with my students to talk about feelings, and what's the activity I would then roll out? So they have an activity that they try out. They have a worksheet to kind of see how it works. So those 2 pieces together, remember when I talked about that active engagement? One of the pieces we really thought about the Sesame video is it actively engages teachers. Sometimes you hear me talk about pre-class. Some teachers need a little bit of information to be able to access the class content, and so it gives them some of that foundational content that they need. And they're being used with pre-K teachers.
Wonderful. And so with this partnership, what does success look like?
So success really, when we think about success, right, we all go to student outcomes, right? But before we get to student outcomes, we have to think about teacher success. So when we think about teacher success, we think about the basic active engagement. How actively engaged are they with content? You guys all know this, right? Part of the issue is for teachers to really grow from professional development, they need to buy into it, they need to participate into it, and they need to be inspired by it, right? And those are the things we look at, right? We look at how many teachers are accessing this, are they completing it, what do they think about it, right? So we look at, right now, I was just actually preparing for the meeting, looking at some of it to see which of our courses are the most popular, and then to go back and kind of think about, okay, if they're not, what is it? What may help people become more actively engaged in that content?
And finally, again, Steve, you touched on this, but I know you all just debuted your new character a couple of weeks ago, Julia, who has autism, and we're very excited about that. Can you tell us a little bit more about when and where we can learn about her?
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to or showed in the speech, that we just did roll out Julia as a real live Muppet in the show. That is, however, part of a broader initiative that we launched 1.5 years ago, which is, again, kind of a next step in many of the things that we do. As an organization, as Joan said, we started out as basically with school readiness, and reading, writing, and arithmetic, and using media to do that. We've evolved as that's evolved, social emotional, executive function. Even I guess today it's about learning through play. But the other way we also are very important going about it is kind of removing the obstacles and sort of helping obstacles that get in the way of learning. We've done things in the past around military families, because dealing with all those stages, because it's incredible. There's 6.8 million military families in this country, in the stages of when the deployment and return, and then sometimes, unfortunately, grief. Autism was the next one in that. 1 in 68 kids have autism, and it's an interesting thing because it is colorblind, it is demographically blind, it is geographically blind. So, and by 1 in 68, it means either you have someone in your family or you know someone, if you think of the odds. And so this was focused on destigmatizing and explaining, and it's a program that brings together what only Sesame can do. We've done it in a mass media way, so it's on the show. We debuted Julie as a 6-year-old delightful Muppet who is a kid, but clearly a kid that sort of learns and digests things in other ways, but kind of just sort of model and show people that different is okay and that there's specialness about her. But then it's a more targeted. You go on our websites and sort of materials, and we're working with local autism organizations to get more targeted both videos and other types of media that sort of explain and give sort of talking points for various people. And what is so inspiring for us is we just announced, as we do the show, is research on our first phase, and it had the 2 goals that we had, which is those people don't have kids with autism, it sort of explained and sort of took away sort of the veil of what it's all about. And for those parents or families who do have kids with autism, it made them feel more confident, and understanding, okay, their kid is just a little bit different, but the kid should be involved in everything. And it really sort of opened up their minds. So that is, you can go on the website, see Amazing, sesamestreet.org, see Amazing, but you can also watch our show on PBS or HBO, and there'll be a lot more to come.
So yeah, as a teacher who started my career really focusing on children with autism, I'm really heartened by this. Actually, so in one of our sessions next, Libby Doggett from the Obama administration will be here, and I had the pleasure of going to dinner with her last night. And we were talking about children with special needs and inclusion, and the fact that 20 years ago I was running a project working in DC and Virginia and Maryland on inclusion, and unfortunately when she looked at the statistics from 20 years ago to now on inclusion in the US of children, we really are at the same place, right? And part of that is just because of a lack of understanding, right? And so I think things like this help destigmatize things like autism and help the kids, right? It's the adults who are more scared. The kids understand. And so I think with everything, we need to have the children lead, and the more that they understand, it's just another child who does things just a little differently than me. I think we really will push forward inclusion for all kids in early childhood education. So.
Well, we're definitely very excited about Juliana. It was great to see her today, and also to have Grover again. Thank you to Grover for teaching us old stones some new tricks. And again, I want to thank Steve for being here with his team, Akimi, Alicia, Allison, who are here today. We are incredibly proud of our partnership with Sesame Workshop, and just incredibly honored to have you all here interacting with us for these couple of days in Austin. So thank you very much. Another round of applause for Sesame Workshop. And as we move forward today, we have another great day, plenty to see and hear and do. We will have a keynote, as I mentioned earlier, at lunchtime. Bob Pianta will be here introducing Derek Little. So there's a lot more. Follow along on Whova, post those pictures, ask questions on the bulletin, and stay connected with your new community members. One of those community members is Sandy, who also has a birthday today. So happy birthday to Sandy as well. And thank you all.
Thank you.